Hello and welcome, fellow awesomeologists, to Awesomeology. I'm Sue.
And I'm Ben, and in this episode, we're sitting down with Sam Plester, CEO of Mission Brands Consulting. Welcome, Sam.
Welcome. Thank you, Sue and Ben, for having me. I'm really excited to be on the podcast.
Well, we are very excited to have you here. Thank you for being with us. We have some mutual friends in the
Yes.
industry, is what I
Yes.
learned when you first reached out. But this
Yeah.
is our first time actually meeting. So let's take time for you to tell us about yourself and to be totally transparent now. And also, I think the accent gives it away. But I saw on your LinkedIn profile that you started your career in the UK. I think your accent probably has something to do with that.
Yeah.
So I am curious, though, what got you from there to Madison, Wisconsin, which is where you are now, right?
I am in Madison, Wisconsin. Yep. This is about, so I mean, I can cut right to the end. This is about as close to my in-laws as I can be without being Amish. So, my wife and I, we met. Okay, before the call, you gave me some certain parameters about words I could use, but I'm just, I'm going to share TMI. So
Okay.
we are a one night stand that's been going on for about 15 years now, and we've got two
Mm.
kids to show for it. So she and I met in a reggae bar in Vietnam, in Hanoi, Vietnam. And she said, "You seem pretty cool. You should move to America with me." And I said, "Joke's on you. My mom's from Red Bank, New Jersey. So I will move to America to be with you." So yeah, I went home. I quit my job. I sold all my belongings. I flew to Chicago, and my now wife and I, who I'd known for one night, we moved to Vermont, and that was 2010. So, but she's a Wisconsinite originally. So
Okay. Okay.
yes, yes. And Wisconsin has been a very good home to me. I didn't know about the credit union system in the UK, I'm ashamed to say. Um, and my wife and I were living in London for a while after Vermont, and we decided we're not. I know you'll find this hard to believe. We're not multimillionaires, so we couldn't afford a four-bedroom house in London. So we decided to relocate to Wisconsin. Milwaukee was the plan. Anyone who knows me knows I have a 414 number because we were supposed to move to Milwaukee, and I was messaging everyone on LinkedIn. If you had Milwaukee and marketing in your job title, I was just hounding you, saying, "I'm a real boy. I swear to God, I'm a real boy. I would love it if can I buy you a coffee when I move to America?" And a man who is no longer at True Stage, QD Mutual Group at the time, he hoodwinked me. He had Milwaukee in his profile because he lived in
Oh,
Milwaukee, but he actually drove to Madison every day.
okay.
Um, and when I asked if I could buy him a coffee, he said, "I can do one better. I have 3 vacancies. Would you like to come and interview for a job?" And so Wisconsin and my credit union career and my credit union passion, they go absolutely hand in hand. One wouldn't exist without the other.
And all to credit to a one night stand.
And all because of a one night stand. This is the thing to your listeners. When someone says you seem cute, you should go somewhere with me. I mean, check the van for,
Yeah,
text a friend, but I say take a chance.
that
Yeah.
is awesome. So tell me, what were you doing in Vietnam?
I had some shares come good, Ben. How old was I? 20? I was 26 and I had £2,000, which is about $2,300. I had £2,000 in my pocket. It was the most money I'd ever had, ever in the world. And I had a buddy who was living in Vietnam and another buddy who was living in Abu Dhabi. And the three of us were going to meet up in a town. So a guy called Adam was going to fly over from Abu Dhabi. And I met my wife on the second night there, and he flew over from Abu Dhabi. And I I met my wife, and so I never met up with those guys. And to be honest, I haven't spoken to one of them since, the one who flew from Abu Dhabi. Um, but yeah, so she'd been teaching English out there, as people in their mid-20s do. She had 3 months left on her contract, and I had £2,000 burning a hole in my pocket. And yeah, it was just. Do you know what? I know this probably isn't what we're here to talk about, but I am not a religious person. I don't necessarily believe in fate, etc., etc. But at the time, I was living in Angel in London. If you walked out my house and turned left, you would get to Angel Tube Station in 10 minutes. If you turned right, you would get to Islington in about 15 minutes. Molly, my wife, had been accepted into a college in London and a college in Vermont, and she wasn't sure which one she was going to go to. The one in London, I walked past every single day. So one way or another, she and we would have met. I firmly believe that.
Wow. Yeah. Interesting.
Yeah.
Yep.
It is true. This is not what we were here to talk about, but now this is suddenly all I want to talk about, Sam.
Mhm.
Yeah.
What a story.
And she has a master's in drawing comics. That was the other thing. So I moved from central London to White River Junction, Vermont, population 2,500. It was quite the culture shock. And I hung out at an MFA program for a couple of years. Yeah. You never
Love
know
it.
where life is going to take you,
Right.
right? You never know where it's going to go. So
That is really cool. Well, um, my next
yeah,
question
where do you want to
fast
take that,
forwards
Ben? Let's
us.
go.
Yeah. My next question fast forwards us way to 2023, but I would love for you to pause us and back us up to anything else that you want to share along the way between 2010 and now. But what I'm especially curious about is your starting of Mission Brands,
Yeah.
and that happened in 2023. So definitely want to know the inspiration behind that and what you have going on. But feel free to share anything about the journey along the way. We'd love to hear
Yeah.
all that too.
Yeah. So, I mean, as I alluded to, yeah, so honestly, we were not supposed to move to Madison. I was, however old I was in 2010, 26, 27, something like that. So, I was cocksure. I was like, this is fine. Like, I was 10 years into my career at the time, and a little more, I suppose. And so I decided this CUNY Mutual Group interview, I was just going to go and dust the cobwebs off. Like, we're not moving to Madison. We're here to move to Milwaukee. Like, I'm just going to go and dust the cobwebs off. And so my wife drove us up to the mothership. She sat and waited in the parking lot, and I met with two people, neither of whom are there any longer, actually. And I came out and I sat back into the car, and I was like, okay, we're moving to Madison. Like, those people, I had just no comprehension of the credit union system. I had no understanding of it. And in whatever it was, 2.5 hours, that was all it took for me to say, I want to work with those people in that organization doing the things they do for the credit unions they serve. And I was very fortunate that at the time, CUNY Mutual Group felt the same way. And so I was very fortunate to join the team then. And I was at CUNY Mutual Group, TrueStage, for 6.5 years or so. And I was always lucky in that, not to say that the other colleagues there aren't lucky, but I was lucky in that I never had a specific product portfolio. I wasn't in charge of overseeing how we talk to credit unions about loan protection, or how we talk to credit unions about TrueStage, as it was then just as a direct consumer insurance product. My remit was always how we talk about the entity as an enterprise, as an institution underneath which multiple different business lines serve credit unions and their members through multiple different ways, as a national philanthropist, as an employer of 3,500 people. So I felt very privileged that that was my playground while I was there. And after 6.5 years, COVID had happened. I had my first child, and things changed. And someone reached out from the National Credit Union Foundation and asked if I would be interested in moving over there. And a lot of my early career was in local government in England, nonprofit. The public sector is a huge employer in England. I've never found that to be the case in the States. But you can walk down any street in any town in England, throw a stick, and you'll hit someone who works for a charity, who works for local government, who works for some kind of non-profit or public sector entity. So that certainly kind of called to me, just the charitable arm of the credit union system. I want to be involved in that. And also, I wanted to challenge myself. I wanted to test myself. Like, okay, you can do these things at an institution the size and scale with $3.5 billion, $4 billion in assets, and 3,500 people. What do you do when you've got some belly button lint and some baked beans to rub together as your marketing budget? You know what I mean? Like, what do you do? How do you aggregate and curate the impact of the credit union system at scale, and then use that to celebrate the system, but also evangelize it and advocate for it? So I wanted to test myself. I was very fortunate that at the time, one of my true credit union heroes in Chad Helminack, who's now at Q's, he was there at the time as well. And yeah, we just, it was this wonderful opportunity to see the true scale of the credit union system. Okay, I'm a diligent notes taker, and I understand this is an audio format, so no one's going to be able to see this anyway. But Sue, you and Ben can at least see. I opened up a notepad that's on my desk. The first page is the
Look at
credit.
that.
Yeah.
That
So
is the credit union onion right there.
I am always advocating, always evangelizing. Some poor sap somewhere asked me something, and I sat down and drew the onion for him. So I wanted to be able. The foundation gave me exposure to the onion, the full breadth of the system, and it was thrilling, but it was also disheartening is not the right word, but the credit union system is hurting.
Mm.
I've just got back from GAC. That's why I'm talking a little hoarse. I've just got back from GAC, and there was a lot of real talk this time. I felt the temperature in the room was higher, or perhaps cooler than I'd felt before. There's a genuine nervousness about tax exemption and what that can mean. There's genuine nervousness about CDFI status, and credit unions en masse, I think, are hurting. They are overwhelmingly struggling for deposits, struggling for membership growth, struggling for relevance in an increasingly fintech-driven, frictionless world. And what I have seen over my career in the credit union system is an over-reliance on widgets and gizmos and commodities. And credit unions, I firmly believe, cannot and will not win on a commodities play. You can be the largest credit union in your community, in your state, in the nation. And you go to market saying, we've got credit cards and we've got checking accounts. Good for you. So does Chase. So does BNY Mellon. So does Wells Fargo. In fact, everyone's probably already got a Wells Fargo one. They just don't know about it. That is not a play that you can win. So you have to find what is truly going to differentiate yourself. And I think credit unions for a long time if they've recognized that and acknowledged that, they've said, well, we've got service. When Sue walks in, we say, hey, Sue, how you doing? How is the kids? How's the cat? Did you see whatever it was? They know you by your first name. They know you. They've been with you, and therefore you're a loyal member. And I think the liquidity fluctuation, the liquidity crisis of the last 2.5 years demonstrated that knowing Sue by her first name does not a member retention play make, right? You love them. They're great. Dave is such a wonderful teller, and he always makes you laugh. But the place down the road was offering 5 bits better on their CD. So you took your money out and you went there.
Right.
And the credit union system, I think that was a shake to the core of, well, geez, we've always thought that, like, if we say hi to Ben because we know his name, he'll stay with us. It's not the case. So you have to find that true core differentiator. It's not going to be products. It's not going to be knowing Ben's name. So what is it? And I thought that was a real opportunity to be a system partner. And I truly hammer this home to my team every single week. Like, we are not a vendor suckling at the teat of the credit union system. That ain't happening. We are not here to sell shit to credit unions. We are here to add value to the system. We're here to work individually with every institution to identify the challenges that are present to them, to help them find the communities that they are overlooking, that they are underserving, and bridge that gap. What's the mission that is really going to help you address and meet the needs of those people? And that, my friends, is where Mission Brands Consulting began, and it's what we still do.
That's a lot to think about, Sam.
I was waiting for you to say you were on mute that whole time.
Yeah.
That's could you just start over? No.
Yeah. From the top, Sam.
No,
Well, go ahead, Sue.
I think there are so many things that I just want to underline something. I think we fully agree with this idea that credit unions, and not just credit unions, we also work with nonprofits, we work with small businesses, and I think service is what everyone wants to hang their hat on. And it is disheartening to have to continually have this conversation to say service is the bare minimum. That is, you need to do that and do it well all of the time. And that also can't be your brand. Yes. You have to decide who you are at the core of your business, and that is your brand. Yes. Not because you are nice and you know everyone's name and you get their latte order right. That's what you need to do. So,
and I think credit unions as well, the analogy that I typically use is that everyone working at a credit union, and like you, we also, I'm very proud that we work with the African American Credit Union Coalition and with CULA and with CUNA Strategic Services and with a number of values aligned fintech too. Emphasis on values aligned. If you've tried something in the healthcare space or the telecom space and it didn't work and you think you can sneak into credit unions, you can go talk to someone else. But if you've developed something that's going to help the credit union system thrive and you want to help, great, come and talk to Mission Brands. But you can certainly at credit unions, you can walk in and you've got those words on the ceiling, right, over the doorway as you walk in. It's like, we believe in X, Y, and Z. And you're like, yeah, man, that's us. That's me. And you tap it and then you go and you sit at your desk and you do the same thing that you do every day because life happens, because work happens, because challenges happen. And sometimes it is prevalent upon us to take the opportunity and make the investment in time and people and money to double check and to stress test. Are those the right words? Is that our mission? And if it is, and that is validated, not by the community that you started serving 80 years ago, you certainly don't lose sight of that, honor that, celebrate that. But like that community is changing every day. So is that the mission that is still most relevant and resonant for the people we exist to serve? And if it is, then there's something else going on somewhere. So let's look at the operations. Let's double check how we are, literally functioning. And let's tweak the mechanics so that we are delivering that mission. And if that mission isn't right, because the communities have changed to such an extent, or because the needs of the people, the products and services that you have at your disposal have evolved to such an extent, well, words matter. So find the way that you can now articulate what your organization stands for, and the operations are just gonna pump that out, and you're cooking with gas.
Yeah, it really is important because those words they can be the thing that you tap and then quickly forget about and go back to your day-to-day, or they can be a North Star for decision making. They can be a filter for difficult conversations. They can serve, so many different purposes. And I think that the businesses, the credit unions, certainly, but as Sue said, I think any business that's operating under those kind of principles, the big benefit that you can get from that is as you're establishing your differentiator, as you're, kind of finding yourself and positioning yourself as the kind of organization you want to be for your community, for the world, whatever it might be. Those things make all of that happen quicker, more genuinely, They keep you agile along the way. So you're changing, you know, because like you said, like what was set up 80 years ago, like it might have been perfect for 80 years ago. It might have been exactly what you needed 80 years ago, but you're not that company anymore. You know, so there's, and I do think that like +1 ditto underline everything that's been said so far about, you know, service not being enough, product never being enough. I shouldn't say never, almost always being not enough.
It's not what you're going to win on. It's
Yeah,
not what you're
right,
going to win.
right.
You can
Yes,
have amazing products, and you can have products that Chase don't have. You know,
right.
I firmly believe. I'm trying to trademark the term the new tech stack. Right? We talk about legacy tech stack. We talk about legacy technical issues, certainly in the core world for credit unions. I think that I mean, right now there's 3, 4 fintech for every credit union, right?
Mm.
And of course that is the full gamut. That is as much Jack Henry as it is Valify. Um, but I truly believe that credit unions they were the original disruptor. They were the ones
Right.
who said, holy cow, there's a bunch of interned Japanese Americans who, you know, were interned by their own government, and no one in their right mind is ever going to lend them money. We're going to band together. We're going to do this. We're going to set up JCOM. And, you know, 80 years later, JCOM is still there and thriving. They disrupted financial services. Every credit union was founded by a superhero. So I think you can celebrate that legacy, you can celebrate that heritage, but you can amplify it with the new tech stack. There's so many fintech out there that you can stack on top of one another. If you do the due diligence and find the ones that really complement one another, you can offer products and services that no other bank is. Absolutely. It's still not going to be how you win, but it can be
Yeah.
how you differentiate yourself.
Yeah. So can you share an example of like a credit union you've worked with, or even just one that is a good example that comes to mind that is differentiating themselves in a way that feels different, that truly is different than product, service, and some of those more traditional or cliche?
Yeah. Do you want to go super? I'll go super meta to get you started. How's that?
Love
Because
it.
the reason I'm on this podcast is because my friend and mentor Brent Rempe was on this podcast, and we got talking, and then he introduced us, and now here we are.
Yeah.
Um, you know, Brent, I've known Brent. He was my table mentor when I went through DE in 2016. So I've known him for almost 10 years. And he is the CEO of First Alliance out in Rochester, Minnesota. And I guess he's been there for a year now, 18 months, something like
Yeah,
that.
about that. Yeah.
So his challenge to Mission Brands was, I know how our credit union works. Our people know how we work, but there's something we can't quite put our finger on. So I've asked my organization to self-select a group of 12 people, and we called it the Mars Group. This is who would you take to Mars to start all over again, right? And Mission Brand's remit, excuse me, was we're going to lock 15 people in a basement, and we're not allowed to reemerge until we have articulated what First Alliance stands for. Again, they already do it, so we had to just work the room to pull together, like, how is this different? Why does that significantly change the way that your organization operates compared to any other credit union down the way? You know, they're sitting on top of Mayo Clinics. They got what, 30, 40,000 white collar employees. Everyone wants those deposits. How are you truly differentiating? And then let's try and, again, words matter. Let's try and stick a pin in that so that you can now start building the marketing and the brand that evangelizes your difference. And I should be prepared. I've got one of the statements right behind me, but I think their mission was we show up, we listen to your story, well, we find the opportunities or something like that. But that was like, they operate something that they refer to internally as storybook lending. And that was the essence of that. Like, there's a difference between turning up and showing up, right?
Mm.
Ben and Sue, you can turn up to work. It is real easy to do that, especially if you work from home. Showing up, entirely different thing. That means you are mentally present. You are emotionally present. You are invested. Ben, you are asking Sue what she needs because you know that you can help and you are invested enough to say, Sue, I got you. What do you need? I'm here for you today. That is showing up. That is what First Alliance do for their members. They don't turn up, they show up. And they do this thing called storybook lending, where FICO is ostensibly out the door. Sue, tell us what's happening. We want to hear, like, actually, we have the license to spend as much time as we need with Sue individually. And it was really thrilling to be in a room with 15 odd people and just watch this come together. My colleague Kwong and I mean, we were truly there as facilitators, occasionally head bashers, but mostly it was just like, you all know this, we've just got to pull it out of you. And just listening to how they operated, it was wonderful. And there's another one I do want to call out very quickly. Is an organization called Cotton Belt Federal Credit Union down in Pine Bluff, Arkansas. And so we started working with them about a year ago, and it is a staggeringly impoverished neighborhood. I mean, this time last year, they had the holy trifecta. They were the most violent small city in the United States. They had the highest level of population decline in the United States, and they had recently been voted the worst place to live in the United States. So, 3 strikes. And there is an institution there looking for a way to help, looking for a way to support their members. And we went down there, we partnered with Corpera Consulting. We ran a focus group, and what we found was I'm the youngest of 8. I will straight up walk up and ask for favors because, if I didn't ask for favors, I didn't eat or get clothes. So we spent a few days in Pine Bluff, and if I ordered coffee from you, I'm going to stop you and do some guerrilla interviewing. If we had a sandwich, the waitress, the server, I'm going to do this. And then we ran a focus group. And overwhelmingly, what we heard over and over and over and over again was this crabs in a bucket mentality. The second Ben says, hey, Sue, I've got an opportunity. I'm moving on and I'm moving up. Sue says, no, you're not. And you grab him and you pull him right back down. Everyone said this. A woman said, my mother started a nursery and her sister was just just desperately trying to tear her back down. So we worked with the credit union. The website is coming as soon as their core provider pushes it live. I shall not name them. We worked with them on an entirely new brand structure, an entirely new brand strategy, and I'm proud to say we've developed a new website, which will go live. But the positioning was one of the champion. If everyone is going to pull you down, we will be the one who unabashedly and unapologetically pushes you right back up. We will cheerlead this community. It is ugly. It has warts. We know it. We will celebrate it. We will be the cheerleader in this community, and no one else is around here is doing this. That can differentiate them. That gives them a platform to attract and engage their communities with, much more so than we have credit cards. Bully for you.
Yeah.
I'm going to celebrate you. That's totally different.
Yeah, that's an awesome experience, and one that I think happens more often than we hear about, one, because a lot of credit unions kind of stink at telling that story, but we all talk about community support and all of those things, right? But it's the ones that go beyond writing the check and, supplying a couple volunteers to the event or whatever. It's the ones that are they're woven into the fabric of that change in their community, they're the people lifting others up. And I think that when a credit union is making that kind of difference in their community, it's almost like an exponential difference, if that's the right word to use with it, because not only are they making a difference that nobody else in their community is going to make for them, and it sounds like the community that you gave an example of is perfect for this, but the reason why it's kind of exponential is because not only are they making the difference that no one else will, they're a credit union doing that. And oftentimes, and maybe I should step back a little bit because to folks like us, that doesn't surprise us that a credit union is doing it.
Mhm.
But for the general community, the fact that a financial institution is doing it is surprising for
Mhm.
so many.
Mhm.
So it's almost like the wow factor of, wow, you're really here for our community. You're there for us. It's magnified because it's not coming from the United Way. It's not coming
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
from the
Yeah,
local community foundation, whatever, the folks
yeah.
that usually do that kind of work. It's coming from a financial institution, the
It-
same people that are giving me a debit card. What?
Yeah, I have my auto loan with those people, and now they're
Yeah.
doing. Oh, okay. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
So I want to as well, just because we're on it, I want to call out. I'm going to take you for a complete pivot now. Uh, I went into that program fully expecting to be pitching the board on a name change
Hmm.
because I am white, I am English. um, they are in the deep. I don't know. Is Arkansas classed as deep south? I'd consider it deep south. I don't know, but it is.
Relative to Madison, yeah.
Yeah, the communities that they serve, I think, is something like 95% Black. I assumed that cotton was not going to be a particularly inviting, accessible term, and I was proven wrong.
Hmm.
Everyone we spoke to were like, "Nope, that doesn't resonate. It doesn't bring up negative implications for me. Actually, what this is our heritage. We're in the Cotton Belt, et cetera, et cetera." And so,
Mhm.
complete sidebar, but it was a really important reminder of bringing your own kind of biases and expectations. Um, I mean, it slapped me around the face. Like, okay, this credit union retains the word cotton in their name. Okay, it means something, and people are proud of it and celebrate it down there.
Yeah, that's interesting. That's such uh I think I would have had the exact same idea going in.
Right?
And I think it's a good lesson for marketers that it's very easy to look at to look at a prospective client or really any I don't know, we're marketers. I
Yeah.
think everything I look at, I think we
I
could do
got
better.
this. I can do better than this. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
But when you to spend the time with the people in the organization and hear what it
Mhm.
means to them, and especially, you know,
But this was the community. This wasn't
right.
internal. This was out and about. Like, hey, you are a young Black man. Would you go to an organization that has cotton written above it? Yeah, wouldn't hesitate. It really surprised me.
Hmm. Yeah, that is really interesting and maybe has something to say about how our worldview and maybe what we perceive to be good, bad, truth, false,
Mhm.
can really be changed by the people that live in it and are in it every day and all of
Right.
those
Mhm.
things. Just one small example of it, maybe.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Sorry, took you down a rabbit hole you weren't expecting there, didn't I?
No,
I love it.
we'll take it. We love rabbit holes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Now you can see what Ben is doing right now on the screen, Sam, is he is looking at her notes and trying to make sure and probably realizing that the things that we were going to ask you, you have already answered. And so we have to make this crucial decision of what do we do next? Right, Ben?
Yeah. Yeah. Some version of that for sure. Yeah.
I can see
Well,
he's just playing he's playing Sudoku. I can see it
Yeah.
in the reflection
yeah.
in his
Yeah.
eyes. Yeah,
I'm
yeah.
almost done with this board. Just give me a couple minutes. Yeah. Well, let's dive in a little bit to this big question of purpose because it's something that we've been asking people all year. And if you
Mm.
listen to Brent's episode, you probably know what's coming. But we're writing a book about purpose, and so we're asking folks to try and get some feedback, try and eliminate our biases and our worldview on the topic. So you've said so much about missions. Purpose, I think, already without maybe directly addressing it. But let's talk about you, Sam, and maybe through mission. What would you say is your purpose?
Um, I would say it changed 6 years ago when my daughter was born. My first daughter was born. I think prior to that, I remember my mom always saying, do something where people will be better off because you've done it. Like that was, I don't remember much career advice from my mother, but I remember that. Do something where people are better off. I remember my dad saying, the job that you end up having doesn't exist yet, which probably isn't exactly true because that was probably in the late 80s. But certainly digital marketing, etc., wouldn't have existed then. And so I've always strived to be in a position where I'm adding societal value. Again, easy to do in the UK because the public sector, the third sector, as we refer to it over there, is such a large part of the employment base. And so I always gravitated towards roles and opportunities that, I worked for a social housing organization where it was actually run by a cooperative. The people who lived in these houses ran the housing association. That was where I wanted to be. I wanted to be in an environment where the community was sustaining itself and giving back to itself. And that's why I think I really found, blindly stumbled into credit union system, and it just immediately resonated with my own personal values. And then 6 years ago, Frankie came along, and now I just want to strive for better. She and her sister deserve better, and it's not better than your opinions, and it's not better than your experience. It's not better than your politics. It's just better than yesterday. Yeah. And that's what I want to do. And I think the credit union system is committed to that as well.
Well, that was a mic drop. Love that. Love all that. Thank you. I think it does speak so much to what credit unions do and what I think organizations like ours are trying to do and actively doing every day, which is really just, iterative improvement every single day, right? Yeah. Like day by day, just something a little bit better. And when there's a whole bunch of us working towards that same thing, change can happen pretty quickly, which is pretty cool. And we got to remember that too, because sometimes it sure feels like it's slow or maybe even going backwards and all of that.
Right.
Say more. Go on, Ben, say more.
My attorneys have advised me not to say that.
Okay, all right. Is he jumping up and down in the background?
Yes. Yeah.
They're in the room with him.
Yeah. That's who I'm really looking at off screen. I'm like, can I say that? You think I'm looking at notes?
So I will say I have been very privileged to hold roles in two very large, prominent organizations. I think the foundation's got 12, 13 members of staff or something. Very prominent organizations. And I think sometimes it is easy to see the system. I said this was part of the privilege of the foundation, is you get to see the system at scale.
Yeah.
But there's a con to that as well, in that you can see the machine lumbering along. And my God, it's a machine. And I think one of the benefits of Mission Brands is you get to work, you scratch an inch beneath the surface, and you meet the Susan Bens of the world, and you meet the Brent Rempies of the world, and you meet the Chris Parker at Lighthouse out in Dover, Maine of the world. And you realize that, yes, at scale, the machine might be moving more slowly than you'd like, but the sum of its parts are doing truly just remarkable work every single day. Right. And that's why you just can't lose faith in the system. It's a big old boat. It takes a long time to turn around, but it is being captained by some brilliant, brilliant people.
I don't know if you're allowed to drop the mic a second time, Sam. I feel like that was a second mic drop, and I don't know. I think you've really gone off in a way.
Gone off.
That was a terrible end to that. No, you're so right. I think I think it would be a shame if we let a day go by without realizing how many amazing people we get to interact with. And I think Ben and I are particularly fortunate because we make this podcast.
Mhm.
And one of the things we get to do is just invite awesome people on and say, tell us about you, fill us up with all of the fire you have in your belly.
Mhm.
And we get to share that with people.
Mhm.
So we're really fortunate that way. So thank you for that.
Yeah, thanks.
Even though I
Definitely.
ham-handedly joked, because it's one of my talents.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm sure that what we're getting from you today, Sam, is the real you, the genuine you, and you're a marketer, so you're equipped with the tools to articulate what your passion and your purpose into words that make it all connect to our industry. I also can sense some fresh GAC energy in you, having been to GAC one time. I can say myself, it's if you want like both like rejuvenation and exhaustion at the same
Totally.
time. It's just another one of those cool credit union experiences like DE that it's like the shortest, longest
Yep.
few days of your life. But after you get a chance to catch your breath, you can't help but feel good about what we're doing and what's going on here and the change that we're making in the world, because that's really what it's all about.
Yeah. Yeah. GAC was last year, Mission Brands, we were pretty young. This year I was able to take 3 members of the team along with me. And I don't think they quite realized just how much it will be, and it's like, oh
Yeah.
no, we had an NBC GAC Airbnb. It was brilliant. So the 4 of us all together, and they're coming home at 2:00, and it's like, right, I'll see you in 4 hours. I don't know about you, my first meeting's at 6:30, so
Yeah.
let's go. But
Yeah.
it's a good system, people. It's a good system. Like, life is hard. Life is hard. Work is hard. If it wasn't, they'd call it fun. But we are doing it for the right reasons.
Right.
And the system is doing it for the right reasons. And there are brilliant people in it, like yourselves. And so thank you for just shining a spotlight on those who are out there doing the do.
Yeah. Well, we appreciate you, Sam. So how can people get in touch with you? How can they connect with you, or what do you want them to know?
That we're here. We're here. We are I said it earlier, but I don't know how much of this you're going to cut out. Also, Ben, I appreciate you saying that this is my authentic self. There would be significantly more F-bombs if this was my authentic. But
the one thing you need to be you, and I took it away from you, Sam.
Yep. Yeah, I said it earlier. I strive to be a system partner. I am proud, when I was about to say F it. I am proud, when I am in a room and I look around and it is filled with credit unions and filled with like values aligned fintech, for example, and my people, my organization is and it's an invite only event, and my organization is in there. I think we're on the right track. I think we are being seen and growing into what I hope we will be as a system partner. And so I suppose the takeaway from that is, like, this is not a marketing agency where we exist to, just dust off the old thing that we just gave to someone else and slap your name on it. No, we are here to meet with your credit union to serve your members. And we will get under the hood. We'll pull the engine apart. We'll figure out where the mice have burrowed in, and then we'll put it all back together again. But we will do it for you and with you. And if that means Carly on my team is going to scream as I say this, but if that means that a $25,000 program is done for $1,000, then we will do it for $1,000, because the people who can afford it pay for it.
Sure.
You know what I mean? Like, that's what people helping people is supposed to be.
Right.
When we are capitalized, we will support and provide the support to those who cannot afford to engage in that. And that's how we operate. It's how we've operated from day one. It's how we'll continue to do it.
Love it. Thank you.
MissionBrandsConsulting.com, I suppose, is the key takeaway.
We'll share a link. All right, Sam. So let's wrap up where we roll into our something awesome segment where we get to share something fun, cool recommendation, maybe something we've done recently. And I'm going to kick it off with a quick one. And it is so relevant for me today. I'm very proud that I have a pretty tight sleep regimen. I go to sleep around the same time most nights, and I wake up regardless of when I went to sleep at pretty much the same time. It was daylight savings time this last weekend, and for some reason, my alarm didn't go off this morning. But my biological clock woke me up. So I thought that's something that would be really helpful to share. And now, luckily, this article was served to me this morning. So it was just really timely. This article from The Guardian about 10 sleep mistakes that people make from sleep experts. So lots of good tidbits in there about making sure that your sleep hygiene is nice and tight and good for you and in turn good for everyone around you. Now I will say the last one, it is like a top 10 and or I don't know if it's a top 10 but just 10 in no particular order, but the last one is don't worry about sleep, which I think is a really interesting and important one because we've all, I'm sure, had the sleepless night or we're laying up wondering, oh man, I gotta sleep. I know I gotta sleep. And by doing so, you do not sleep. So, as much as I love to give this nice advice via this article, also like, don't worry about it. Don't take any of it too seriously because at the end of the day, you're you and you'll sleep when you need to sleep. But some good tips in there for sure, especially maybe around daylight savings time.
Do you have any tips for how to convince a 2-year-old that 4:45
No,
is
none of
too
that.
early?
No.
Okay, all
Yeah.
right.
For a
Okay.
different website, maybe. Yeah. All right, Sam, you're up. What you got?
So, okay. Do you want Sam's useless fact of the day, or do you want something that's truly awesome?
Oh man, maybe even a little bit of both.
Okay. All right. So, my recommendation, funny you should talk about sleep, Ben, is I am a big advocate of a podcast called Mindscape. It's by a theoretical physicist called Sean Carroll. And I discovered it when I was in a bad way, just mentally. I was rough. I was extremely stressed. I was having panic attacks. I was not in a good spot.
Hmm.
And I'm a creative. I think in like colors and music. I'm not a scientist. And I went down this deep, dark theoretical physics rabbit hole. And I listened to this podcast uh, religiously every night because it zens me. I find that I don't understand particle physics, so I have to sit there and listen to it. And so all the nonsense that's going on that
Mm.
my head would typically spiral after is just gone. I can sit there. But what I love about Sean Carroll's show is he will do some about, quantum theory. And then the last one was the theory of cocktails. He seeks out just these brilliant people, and he unapologetically celebrates people for just being really smart and really bright and having wonderful things to say. And um and I get all sorts of things from it. And so my useless fact of the day actually came from an episode where, so when you're sitting at the pub and you there's a wonky table and you find the beer mats and you wedge them under the thing. So
Yeah.
actually, mathematically, all you have to do is rotate that table, and at some point it will level out because that's just how math works. That's how the world works. It is wonky because it hasn't found its equilibrium. You just have to rotate it until it does. And it's little things like that where I'll sit and listen to it. And I would assume that most people would think that's an interesting fact about tables. That's an interesting fact about math. And I think that's a really interesting fact about credit union marketing. Like if you have the right message and you have the right brand and you've got these multiple audiences and segments and communities that you're trying to reach and engage, well, the table's wobbly as hell if you're just like sitting there. But the second you start rotating it so that the right people are sitting at the table, all of a sudden, like this jives. They can enjoy their beer. Isn't this wonderful? So I will sit there and I will listen to this podcast about history and physics and science, and I'll be like, here's why that's relevant to credit union marketing. So that's my awesome thing.
Love it.
That was fantastic. And I would like to say that I'm deeply sad that our time is almost over today. And if you are ever looking for anyone to test that theory with you,
Okay.
I can easily be in Madison in 2 hours.
Right.
So,
Dude, we covered this. I met my
yes.
wife in a bar and she said move to America. So I say yes to these things. Where are you, Marshfield? I'll be in Marshfield in a hot minute. Let's do it.
There
All right,
probably are
we're
a
gonna make it
lot
happen.
of wonky tables we have to deal with, Sam. That's all
Yeah.
I'm saying.
Damn, and blast. We're gonna have to test them all.
Oh, so my recommendation, I just finished a book. Um, it is called From Under the Truck, a memoir by Josh Brolin.
Oh,
Josh
Sweet.
Brolin, who is James Brolin's son, who played Thanos, among other people. I'm sure he doesn't want to constantly be known as the guy who played Thanos. But it is fantastic. It is, he does not write his memoir sequentially. So he goes in chunks from year to year, from different periods of his life to different period, and it goes back and forth. And some of the things are written like essays, and some of the parts are literal stories, and some of them are poems. It's just so beautifully written and really interesting. The his mother struggled with some addiction. He struggled with addiction, and without being the kind of memoir where you would expect, oh, well, he's successful now, and so I'm going to get this sequential story of how he broke through his addiction and, the trauma from his childhood, and I'm just going to get this nice, neat little package. It just sort of floats back and forth, just so well done. So highly recommend From Under the Truck by Josh Brolin.
Cool. I love that. And he's one of my favorites. So I just want to learn more about him, but also just as you're talking, it makes me think like, why isn't more, especially like memoirs and even biographies and stuff, like why isn't more written like that? Because if you're telling your story, like
Right.
who the heck starts from age 2 and goes in
Yeah.
order the whole time, right? Like you're totally like, oh yeah, this thing that happened when I was 8 influenced how I did this thing when I was 17, and then oh, that reminds me of this time that my brother kicked the crap out of me when I was 10. Like of course that's how you're going to tell this story, right? It's almost obvious.
Yeah.
It's really interesting.
Yeah. That's
Hmm.
such a good. I was thinking the same thing, Ben, when I was reading it. Like, of course you would write. If you were telling your life story, this is how you would tell it.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, so do you think that's an author's decision, or do you think it's typically there's an editor that says, no, 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 this isn't how people read books. And what
Right.
we've
Yeah.
got here is an editor with the backbone to take a punt.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. We'll call
Say
up
yes,
Josh Brolin and
people.
we'll
Say
find out.
yes.
Yes. Well, it probably helps that his stepmom is Barbara Streisand.
Yeah, right.
You just don't fight. If
Hey,
Babs is on the guy's side, you let it
Josh
go.
Brolin, as in like No Country for Old Men.
Yes.
His
Yeah.
stepmom is Barbara Streisand.
Yes. James Brolin is married to Barbara Streisand.
I had no idea.
Is this breaking news to you, Sam?
Yeah.
I think
Mind
I
blown.
only I think I only knew that because it was mentioned when he was a guest on Smartlist, that
Oh,
podcast, which I
there
love
you
and
go.
listen to all the
Yeah.
Barbara Streisand sings one of my favorite songs of all time, and she duets with God, who did she do it with? I want to say Elizabeth Taylor, but that's not right. It's Happy Days Are Here Again. It's just an amazing, amazing, wonderful old song. For those of you out there who have suffered with anxiety and stress and who do worry about sleep and haven't yet discovered physics podcasts, go and listen to that song and remind yourself that
It's
everything
a
will
good
be all right.
start. It's
Yeah.
just a good start. A lot of her catalog, a good start.
Yeah.
Well, Sam, thank you. This was absolutely delightful.
Thank you.
And I cannot wait to do this again. So anytime you want to stop back, please let me know. You know
Yeah.
how to reach me.
Thank you both so much. I do appreciate it. Thank you.
And
And
it'll happen in person if it doesn't happen in this format for sure.
there you go.
Yeah. Spring is
So
springing.
easy.
Let's go get a beer.
Right.
So thank you, listeners, for joining us again. Thanks so much for spending time with us and Sam. You can always catch up on our podcast on your favorite podcast app. You can go back, listen to the episode with Brent that inspired Sam to reach out, or you could just listen to all of them, and that would be good too. So you can find those on your favorite podcast app or on our website, exclamationqso.com/blog.
Thanks again, Sam, for being here. Thank you, friends, for tuning in. Be awesome, and see you next time. The Awesomology podcast is a production of Exclamation Services. Executive producers are myself, Ben Bauer, and my friend, Suzanne Campbell.
Thanks to Kyla Ganther for our show artwork, Scott Sager for booking our guests, and Alex Westerhausen for social media support.